I would also like to welcome and thank our honorable I would also like to welcome and thank our Honorable Principal Ma'am, Dr. Rekha Sapra, our teacher in charge, Dr. Atika Khan, and our faculty members, Dr. Nazish Khan, Mr. Kunal Anand, Dr. Harinath Kumar, Ms. Mehek Dua, and Dr. Abhishek Singh. Thank you all for joining us. I would also like to request Dr. Atika Khan to welcome our guest speaker.
Thank you for letting me welcome you. All of you have been doing the hard work, but I'm very glad that we're having Dr. Kulveen Trehan to talk to us on a very relevant topic. So I welcome you, and I'll hand it over to the students to carry on. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Kulveen Trehan, who holds a PhD degree in mass communication with her doctoral work in the field of advertising. Our guest speaker needs no introduction. She is presently working as a senior faculty at University School of Mass Communication, GGS IPU, and has been invited as a panelist and speaker in various forums on media literacy, Brexit, and many more. She also conducted several workshops in leading organizations like Gale, Polycon, and has chaired sessions at many international conferences. She has delivered a speech lecture to NDRF officers at Indian Institute of Mass Communication. With an experience of more than 14 years in teaching and research, her research papers and articles have been published in reputed international media and marketing journals. We are honored by your presence, ma'am, and are excited to learn from your vast experience the challenge that are faced by the print media, a medium which has survived against the electronic media revolutions and has converted threats by emerging technologies into opportunities by continuous upgradation and innovation. I request you, ma'am, to please enrich us with your views.
So I believe that is Sakshi. From the screen, I can see her name as Sakshi. Am I audible, everyone?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
You're audible, yeah.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Khan, for your kind invitation. Nazish, very, very fond of her. She's turned out to be a wonderful media academician, a very conscientious researcher. And thank you, Sakshi, for being so generous with your words. Yes, like you put it, print media has been facing several challenges for quite some time now. The Indian mediascape has evolved, especially after the new economic reforms of 1991. In fact, the policy came in 91 and the reforms started to take place in 92. Ever since we started to go global and there was a liberal tax regime and integration of economies led to an explosion of television in the country, a satellite revolution of sorts. And somewhere along the line, it then posed a challenge to the print. How would print, newspapers, magazines, as we knew them, in their conventional format, how will they survive if they ever do? This has been a conversation which is nothing new. Survival of print. Is print dead? Will print media live to see the light of the next decade? These conversations have been going on for quite some time. But always print has survived. Print has carved a space for itself, and many a times print has been able to transcend into newer demographic segments, find new markets, find new consumption patterns, and evolved new modes of journalism. And that is why you, as students of journalism, continue to study print in the curriculum. Let me tell you, if there is no print in the curriculum will have a vacuum. No one, none of us from the digital milieu will be able to fill it up. So I will be sharing a certain presentation. These days we are sharing presentations, even though in my classroom I'm not very fond of them when I'm in a face-to-face mode. But in a more online setup, probably a presentation acts sufficiently helpful in helping people figure out what is being said through through various diagrammatic illustrations. So we'll share the presentation. Are you able to see everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Right. So we are looking at print media, the story of print media in India, right? It's a medium that has been part of our history. It's been a medium which has been our love, which has represented our love for the printed word in terms of smell of ink and the feel of paper. It is not just the text or the content which caught our imagination and lived with us in terms of information it provided, in terms of the need gratifications it created, what is going on in the society, the surveillance of environment. All of us could not be everywhere. So print journalism gathered information from various parts of the world, various parts of the country, various aspects of human life, and brought it to us. Print was always special. So this print media story is basically the story of the challenges which we are facing vis-a-vis the newsprint today. What is happening on the newsprint front? What has happened with the Union Budget 2021? Amidst all the conversations we are having with regards to COVID-19, one of the major changes which have happened is with our own budget in 2021. The newsprint has become more expensive. And that has posed an extreme challenge for the survival of this industry, the print media industry. So that is one point we'll be taking up as we progress in our conversations. Another important aspect which we need to dwell upon is the advertiser and the newspaper relationship, or the advertiser and the magazine relationship as we know it right now. What is this advertising revenue driven model which has defined the Indian newspaper and magazine industry up till now? Is that particular model the model of the next generation? Is that how it is going to continue to affect content and circulation? Or whether consumption, circulation, and content are all likely to change, retaining the values of print journalism as this particular relationship finds a new form? We are also going to look in this particular session the enduring nature of the printed word. At the end of the day, print is about restoration. Print is about preserving the word. Print is going back to it. Print is not ephemeral. Print is not television, which is a medium of fleeting images. Print is going to stay in your memory for a long time. It stands for trade credibility. It stands for the merit or the strength or its ability to be able to live with you for a long period of time. That aspect of print also has to be looked at when we continue our conversation in the next couple of minutes. So as we look at the contemporary aspects, let me also then, continue to say that, which I've been saying on various fora, COVID or no COVID, print media was already facing stiff challenges. It was already a battle between the English newspapers, right? Whether we are going to read English newspapers about 10 years back, when we were when we were reading our newspapers every morning with a morning cup of tea, it was always invariably the newspaper in our hand. And we would flip the newspaper, continuing with our favorite pages, at times sports, at times editorial, at times the front page, and largely at least spend about 30 minutes on the newspaper. But that, in the last 3-4 years, has been taken by the digital platforms. You have a News Laundry, you have a Wire.in, which has come up, you have various other news websites of the newspapers. So it is the digitization of content, news content, which has led to the change of consumption patterns of us. And that has affected the media habits as well. So this is a change which COVID hasn't brought about. This is a change which has been brought about by the increasing digital footprint in the country. The digital access, the digital spread, the digital penetration and continuity of communication technology in the country has led to this competition, this binary opposition which has been created between the English newspapers and the digital platforms. And the reason why I'm not taking into account the regional newspapers here is because the vernacular digital platforms have not evolved to the extent they should have had. Of course, COVID had led to has led to some hastening of the process there, but we do not have any data to suggest that the digital platforms, which are more vernacular, which are more diverse and plural in terms of language, they are posing some serious threat to, regional newspapers or language-specific publications per se. Of course, the media was already, print media was under constant pressure for trying to create a sustainable environment for the revenue model it has. See, we have a advertising revenue driven model. It's not a subscription model we prevail in. So we are dependent as a newspaper organization, we are dependent on the changing advertising climate, on the kind of advertising expenditure or the advertising budgets we have, on the nature of the corporate organizations and their advertising policies. Of course, that builds intense pressure, not just in terms of how much space is to be given. That is this skewed relationship which we see between the advertising and the news ratio, but also has largely affected what kind of content will finally become news and what kind of story will be spiked or killed in between. Of course, that instance, that legendary story of how a particular magazine had a cover story on, passive smoking, and that 4,000 odd word story was spiked or killed because they had to make place for Will's cigarettes advertisements in their magazines. The 3-page campaign had to be spaced out, and that particular story had to be put aside in that edition. So this sustainability of the ad-driven revenue model, which of course found a great high, few decades back. This is the model which led to this cornucopia of publications, this spread of media conglomerates, this huge diversification of print media across the country. All of that is agreed, but for some time now, this ad revenue-driven model has been a pain in the neck for print media organizations in India. So COVID per se does not have much to do with it. Of course, it has hastened the process of trying to find a new model, but problems with the model or problematic ad revenue driven model has been a reality for quite some time. Of course, we've been struggling with issues of paid news. We've been struggling with issues of fake news, and we are struggling with the issues of misinformation or misleading claims. So this ever worsening challenge of paid news has been accentuated by COVID. I agree. But not that this paid news conundrum, this paid news as perhaps the most unethical practice, perhaps the most, perhaps the most corrupt practice in Indian media relationships with organizations is not new. Most of the reports on paid news come from the general elections of 2014. And the definitions of paid news started to evolve way back. So discussions on paid news are not new either. But what has happened is that there is a legitimization. There is a certain amount of agreement. There is a certain amount of, acceptance of paid news in Indian print journalism, which was not there earlier. So this for sale journalism in which you sell a story for in-kind or cash payments from corporate organizations or from political or religious organizations may not be a new trend, but has become a trend which has accelerated a lot in the last 2-3 years. From 2019 to 2021, there has been a spurt of growth, close to 21% increase in paid news. And more than that, conversations or outrage over paid news are also gone down. So there is a certain amount of acceptance in this particular aspect, which is even a bigger challenge than perhaps what's happening with COVID-19. So when we're talking about these challenges in the Indian print media industry, we cannot see it in isolation. We need to see it in integration with what are the various determinants, what are the various factors which are deriving the Indian media industry today. What are the people who are involved in policy making? What kind of policy is being made with regards to media and entertainment in India? And what are the consumption patterns? As in, what kind of media usage or media consumption is now being led, and who's leading that? What age cohort? Is it Gen Z, which is leading media consumption? Is it the millennials? Is it Gen X? the original leaders, or whether it is the new generation, that is Gen I, which is now leading the media consumption patterns vis-a-vis, Southeast Asia or the Indian subcontinent. So we need to look at those visible markers. And if you look at the visible markers of Indian media industry in the last 5 years, some of the pointers indicate as a huge spurt in media consumption per se. All of you, for example, are sitting taking this online session with me, and I'm sure some of you have, if I'm not wrong, let me know if I'm wrong. So some of you have your mobile phones with you, and you're also multimedia tasking, as in you're looking at various news websites, and then your Facebook page is also open, and then you're also sending, writing your 24 to 40 characters on Twitter to update on whether it's the latest IPL, or what's happening with regards to the vaccines, or what is happening with your understanding of what's happening with Mahakumbh, right, or the Bengal elections. So we are engaged in multiple media platform consumption, which is called as multiple media tasking. All of this has led to a fragmentation of audiences. This has led to expansion and specialization. While on one side the industry is expanded to quite an extent, it's almost expanded exponentially. The factorial increase has been close to 10%. But on the other hand, the audiences have become segmented, and there's highly specialized programming formats or media formats which are now available. On one side you have dedicated news websites. On the other, you have the dedicated shopping websites. And then you also have the dedicated portals. You have the blogosphere. And on the other hand, you have in print, you have specialized magazines for sports like Sportstar. You've always had, publications for housekeeping. There are specific women-specific magazines like Women's Era. So the content has become hugely specialized, targeting a niche audience, and this era of mass marketing is over. We are not creating news or non-news content in print for everybody at one go. We are creating differential content for different kinds of people, as predicted or as per our understanding of the audiences which we have profiled or which we've targeted for that particular kind of content. So that is one. Another important area in terms of Indian media industry is the policy support. So what's the government doing with the media? On one side, I told you, budget 2021 is very harsh on the print media. There is an escalation. There is an increase in the custom duty, right? 5% increase in the custom duty has made the newsprint price to go up by 20%, and that's a huge increase, right? So what is the intention of the government? How do we look at? When we look at the policy, there is a clear understanding that they have to boost technological integration, that they have to go the digital way. So there is the Digital India program which they're trying to map, which they're trying to make successful, and they're trying to increase the digitization of the country. Jio has contributed immensely, and others are also following the code in that sense. So policy per se, Indian government's policy, let me be honest, is not too friendly towards print at the moment. Their concentration is largely towards strengthening the digital communication or the newly mediated environment in which all forms of editorial, entertainment, advertising content can be placed at one point. So that is one aspect which we have to live with, because that's the policy we can see from here. And then there is globalization. Yeah, globalization has been a norm for the last 25 years. What we're seeing in the last 5 years is from global to local, as in you're creating content for the global audiences, but we are creating content which is about local. Right? Let me share a piece of information with you. We've just received information from UNICEF and IMCR that we've been awarded a research grant. We've been just awarded a research project for our study, our case study on Chhaja. That is a digital intervention for rural girls, rural adolescent girls in Rajasthan. Right? So that is local. We are talking local, but we are broadcasting it or putting it out or engaging with audiences which are global. So this has been the hallmark of Indian media industry of late, right? Who's the consumer and whose story is it? Those have become integrated, interconnected, cooperative, and in many ways, they've also become complementary in nature. Just look at the way it has grown and the way it is estimated to grow in 2021 as well. Just the sheer magnitude of Indian media and entertainment industry. Of course, we talk about the downward spiral as well in print, but just look at almost everybody: film, television, print, digital, animation, gaming. And you know what? You have to understand, we are not living, the era of standalone Indian media is over. So please, when you're looking at conceptualization of prospects and challenges of print media, do not see it through this singular lens, print media alone. We have to see the entire media scape. The entire media landscape in India is quite healthy and alive and kicking. So if films are doing well, obviously then there'll be space for film-based specialized writing. If sports is doing well, then you will get engaged with specialized form of writing in print for sports as a beat. Again, if business is doing well, is if different forms of economy are are getting enough visibility or presence, then you will be able to find different formats for news and non-news content in print as well. So this is an integrated approach. We have to see standalone has now made way for integrated or for the convergent. Of course, we have to admit that the digital media segment is growing at a greater pace at the moment. But I'm again saying there is a word of caution here. We don't know what is going to happen once the pandemic is completely under control, or once we're over the pandemic. So is it like an elastic, you know, as in, is the pattern, the consumption pattern, the advertising volumes, the circulation, the content consumption, and the reliability of print, all of those measures will come back to its original form? Or will the pandemic have a lasting effect? Is something which I don't think I would want to commit as of now. Let's wait a couple of months more to see whether we can see that kind of more permanent or more lasting change. Who's he? Can one of you just let me know? Can you see him on screen?
Ma'am, the slide has not changed yet.
Is it now? Is it changed?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, it is.
Yes.
Right. So here. So we are now approaching the context of the pandemic with what Lenin said. There are decades when nothing happens, and then there are weeks when decades happen. And this is exactly what Corona did to us. It took us unawares. It took the entire print media industry completely unaware. They were caught unawares, and many a times, if you remember, if you go back in time to April to June 2020, they just did not have a clue as to how to survive this onslaught of crunch, this onslaught of distrust, this onslaught of a breaking a relationship between people and the newspaper. The paper and people who enjoyed a beautiful relationship, especially early in the morning, were finding, a breakup, was heading towards a breakup. At that particular point, this is how the journey looked like. There were a lot of other media, there was a lot of other television, which was making a lot of noise, which was doing a lot of soundbite journalism, which was showing its presence, which was trying to stay relevant. And of course, because people were confined to homes during the lockdown, their television consumption, their digital consumption rapidly escalated. And somewhere along the line, the metaphor of Corona, that is the shrinking space, was largely subsumed by the print media. Print media felt the heat the most. Indian newspaper market shrank dramatically in the first quarter. People were scared to touch. In fact, if you remember, I'm sure a couple of you will, remember that Times of India ran a particular campaign which said, it is safe to touch the newspaper. Do you remember? When Times of India last year, in the third week of April, suggested that it is safe to touch the
Yes,
newspaper,
ma'am.
that
Yes.
newsprint is safe, right? So at that point, they were trying everything that you are scared to touch. That newspapers were just lying out in open and nobody was willing to take it even for free. So the entire circulation went in doldrums. Such was the fear, the scare, which affected print media industry dramatically because they could not fathom how to bail themselves out of it. So once they had that, it was a downward journey or a downward spiral from there onwards. Newspaper editions were shutting down. Pink slips were handed to even the best of the staff. Most of the staff capacity went down by half. People were not getting their salaries. Journalists were asked to cut down on their stories. There was a huge circulation disruption. Why was there a circulation disruption? Because the supply chain broke down, because there was nobody to deliver a newspaper, there was nobody to now distribute a newspaper. The network of distribution and delivery became very, very poor during the lockdown, and of course coupled with fear which was amongst people who would now hesitate to touch the newspaper, this was all looking extremely grim and it was all going downhill. And of course, advertisers were extremely wary to advertise anywhere. It was not just in the newspapers. Advertisers did not want to invest in television. No new ads were coming up. In fact, if you remember, it was only Amul which went in, which decided to advertise. Most of the brands were just not advertising. They were using influencer marketing on digital. But it was Amul which brought back some of its old ads, which were intertextual advertisements which reminded people of Ramayan and Mahabharat, because those were the programs which were now replayed on screen. So those advertisements which were already made, now they were just spending or booking media space in some of the general entertainment channels to play those ads. No new ads were being created per se, right? And that affected, because print, as I told you, is largely an advertising revenue driven model. So it started to affect the health of print very, very badly. And of course, the Union Budget 2021 was no respite. So you had a budget, people were waiting for it. Every year, the media and entertainment industry waits for some soaps, some subsidies, some support from the government for Indian media. But this time, it was unkind to print. The newspaper costs went up 20% in the last 3 months. And that is where the problems started to multiply. You can see in this particular cartoon, you can see how print is simply, or media per se, is simply now reduced to a booth of fake news, misinformation about the coronavirus as well. Not just, with regards to information which was about other aspects, that is elections, politics, science, technology, religion, all aspects were suffering with all of that. So that led to concerns now being played out worldwide. Google, through its Google News initiative, launched a global emergency relief fund for local news publishers, because local news publishers were struggling. Local news distributors were now shying away. They were looking for newer opportunities, perhaps in digital media frontiers. So that really, brought out the extent of gravity of this particular matter. INS, that is Indian Newspaper Society, it was also seriously now crying out for help. It was pleading to the government to reduce the customs duty on the import of newsprints, to give us a stimulus package. They were looking for a stimulus package because, we all know government, especially when telecom went down, when the airline industry, government has bailed airline industry on so many different occasions, right? But this time, the Indian media industry was crying out for help. We were looking for a special package. We were looking for a
Ma'am?
stimulus package. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt you in between, ma'am, but we are not able to see the cartoon. The slide has stopped.
From where? Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think all right. So I think I'll do away with the full screen and let it play like this. Fine. Maybe that will help. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yes, I can see that. Yes.
Yeah. Can you see the next one now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
So like I was sharing with you, there have been umpteen number of reports published on, the fate of journalism, the fate of print, in the during COVID-19 and post COVID-19, those concerns have been expressed worldwide. And I was sharing with you how Google launched an initiative to save the local news publishers, how INS was now pressurizing the government not only to just provide the stimulus package, but they was also asking to change the relationship. We all know that Directorate of Audiovisual Publicity, sends out or publishes governmental ads of different departments of the government, ministries, public service advertising, various social campaigns, public awareness campaigns at a much subsidized rate, at a 50% discount in a publication. So it's not like the Times of India is going to charge, per square centimeter rate of 1300 black and white or 1500 colored, as it does to other brands like Samsung or Nokia or Dabur Amla. For a governmental ad from the Ministry of Consumer Affairs on Jago Grahak, or for the Ministry of Corporate Affairs for anti-lobbying, or for the Ministry of Education for, Padhega India to Badhega India, or for the Ministry of Sports and Youth Welfare, for Khelo India. So all of these campaigns, all of these advertisements are subsidized and they are run at 50% cost. So this time, INS requested and suggested to the ministries that DABP should help the publications by releasing these advertisements with an increased tariff. The DABP should ask the government bodies and its subsidiaries, various public institutions, to pay the entire cost so that we can recover the money. From that advertising revenue, we can then pay the journalists and the beats can survive. Otherwise, we were going to lose the beats. When you look at the beat hierarchy, but for the political, the foreign, and the entertainment beat, the other beats were struggling. What about health as a beat? What about sexual and reproductive health of women, gender as a beat? What about environmental protection and climate change as a beat? What about water bodies and scarcity as a beat? Right? What about quality education for all and skill development as a beat? So all of those major areas in which beat reporting had picked up was struggling, and that is why INS wanted, the advertising tariffs to go up by 50%, so that some of the money can be restored into bringing the news story back into the newsroom. Now that we've seen the grim side of it, we should also now look at the flip side. Despite all of these challenges which the Indian print media is facing, and some of it are being faced, frankly, by television as well, some of them are faced, especially the idea of fake news and misinformation is rampant in the social world, on the social media, right? So some of these challenges are integrated challenges, challenges of all. Amidst all of that, there's still a hopeful scene. The prospects of Indian media are still big. And why am I saying that? Because this huge demographically diverse, economically diverse, socially diverse, it has a huge rural urban mix which creates plethora of opportunities for existence and sustenance of media in this country. So media in this country is always going to, it'll be, of course, there'll be phases where it'll only survive, but it's going to thrive at the end of the day. So there are cornucopia. There are lots of opportunities we have in the Indian media, regardless of how the pandemic has affected the print and the television to some extent as well, right? Let's try and factor in those. The first thing which you need to actually have faith on is the whole idea of journalism. This whole concept of journalism cannot die. It just cannot die. When I say it cannot die, because journalism lies in this basic essence of human beings, curiosity to know about what's happening in the world. I'm curious, and especially when I'm joined to so many people through various social media spaces, through various digitally connected networked societies and communities. I'm part of a fandom, I'm part of a family group on WhatsApp, I'm part of a personal profile on a social media like Twitter. I'm part of so many different digital communities that it is not, that my curiosity, my hunger for information is never going to go away. I'm going to continuously crave for more and more information as to what's happening in China, as to what's happening in United States of America. Have the elections in United States of America have those elections had some kind of effect on the way Bengal elections are playing out in India? So those thought processes are going to live with me as a global communicator, as a global audience. Today, I know that journalism will live on because my need to survey the environment and journalism's function to collect that information and provide it to me in a credible, veracious, and objective manner will live on. So once I understand that journalism is not going to die, I also do have to admit that print, its biggest subset, its closest subset, print is the carrier of journalism, will also continue to live. We'll find a new form maybe, but will continue to live on. And how will it live is something which we need to see here. Have you come across this advertisement? It was a full page newspaper ad on how COVID-19 has shown us that fake news is a real issue, right? And even if you're not able to read the copy, you can see that one little slug, three-word slug at the end, which says print is proof. That is exactly why print will live on, because print is proof that print is credible. Even in trade, I come from advertising, and even when we deal with advertising as a medium, right? And we're looking at various media in the media planning mix, we do admit, because of the editorial veracity, because of the credibility which is associated with the written word, with the proof which print provides through attribution in its various stories, the value of advertising goes up. So there is a direct relationship between perception of people about a particular media platform as credible and the opportunities for consumption and the opportunities for advertising or promotion it is able to create. So the credibility of print is the only way which can restore back this lack of trust which has happened between media and audiences in the last few years. It is an interventionist approach, of course. When I say this trust has to be rebuilt and that print media is the best medium rebuild this trust, I do advocate an interventionist approach. That whenever you come across one of these, this ad is a good example of an interventionist approach of print. That you use the power of print, you use the print is proof approach to counter, to combat the deceptive nature of content which is being circulated on the digital. No, of course, we are not fighting a battle with the digital, but wherever digital is flawed, print has to actually come out, point out the flaws, and create news literacy. The best forms of news literacy can be created only through print, right? So you have to live with that. Unreliable content is unhealthy. Unreliable content is risky. Unreliable content creates polarized societies, bad blood, toxicity, hate, and a culture of distaste amongst people. And it is the print which can bring back a semblance of harmony, a semblance of inclusivity, a semblance of respect, a semblance of commonality in and a respect for plurality amongst people in a society like India, which is very, very diverse, which is demographically diverse, which is geographically diverse, which is psychographically very, very diverse. All right. So that is where the power of print lies. It combats the unreasonable, it combats the fake, the false on social. It is the print which brings back the truth. And that is why I'm so hopeful. I'm hopeful also because there is a demand for local news. People have now found more interest, they're getting more curious about what's happening in their village, what's happening in their township, what is happening in their community. So, this urge to know more about their community, to relate to their community, is also leading to coming up with local newspapers. And there might be a struggle for the media conglomerates. The large newspapers at the moment might be struggling, but the footprint and the need and scope for local newspapers, smaller newspapers, is likely to be consistently going up. So that is a hopeful scenario. You might not be working for a Times of India, but you might be working for a Khabar Lahariya, which to me is a more meaningful exercise, or a Balaknama, right? So you can come up with your own kind of community newspapers, which are again forms of newspapers which are more interesting and perhaps even more credible and more meaningful an exercise than working for a larger newspaper like Times of India. Also, I'm hopeful because journalism is likely. You're able to see the slide, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So journalism is likely to become more separated from the rest of the information. So, it is about journalism finding its essence, journalism reliving itself, journalism being born again, that I am not this information overload which is being spread on social media. I am news, and that I am news approach is going to be restored by print. Newsrooms too will place more value on journalists who are experts at specialized forms of reporting. I was talking about specialized form. What about, rural journalism? What about agricultural journalism? What about corporate tax-based journalism? What about advocacy journalism? What about journalism of science and technology, right? What about journalism of health interventions? So all those forms will make a comeback with vengeance, as people now look towards, or newsrooms and editors are now looking towards journalists who are experts on a subject area. So it's about your skills and competencies, not just as a reporter, not just as a news writer, but your understanding of a particular area, a particular subject, with in-depth capacity to critically organize thoughts and assemble them in a write-up, is something which is going to take you far. Then it is to explain complex issues. People are dying to know about complex issues. Even for that matter, most of us could not figure out whether coronavirus is a biological, virus or a man-made virus. How is this particular virus different from a swine flu virus, H1N1, or for that matter, different from an HIV virus? A virus is a virus at the end of the day for somebody who's not studied science. So various SDGs, whether it is climate change, SDG 13, SDG 4, which is quality education and skills, SDG 5, that is gender equality, SDG 1, that is poverty. So with regards to various sustainable development goals, people are asking for complex information to be given to them in a palatable form. And this is where the print media will serve the best. And also, more importantly, maybe, of course, there are studies which are suggesting otherwise, but maybe it is time to now change the model. We have to go beyond the advertising revenue driven model, and maybe people are willing to pay for high quality, trustworthy journalism. Of course, the numbers at the moment are not very encouraging, but we're looking ahead. We're looking at prospects, right? We're not just looking at present, we're looking at what's going to happen in future. So maybe we'll get more inclined towards paying for high quality, trustworthy journalism rather than reading trash in a newspaper or in a digital news website. I'm willing to now pay for good quality news, which is news and not views. And that is something, if I share, one of my friends, G. Rajaraman, he's a sports journalist of great repute. He's been the editor with ESPN. He was also the editor of the Hindu sports section for quite some time. He sent me this particular story. When we were talking about that, is print media really functional with regards to sports news? And why were we talking about it? Because we all know how Tokyo Olympics did not happen last year. There was a lot of sporting events which got postponed. Most of the players were not able to train. They were not able to practice. So there was a lot of stuff which was happening. And everybody said, since there is no sports happening, so where is the story? And that is where G. Rajaraman did this particular story, Lockdown in the Athlete's Mind, the psychosomatic aspects of lockdown on the minds of shooters, archers, swimmers, etc. So a lot of story, this particular story was published in May 2020 in the Mail, right, in the newspaper. And of course, like I was telling you, so it is an integrated world today. So the same story was later carried out on the website www.circleofsport .com. So it is found at multiple places. But at the end of the day, the relevance of print has not gone down, because as a journalist, you're still doing the same story. Look at the headline. It is a headline which is a declarative headline, right? Lockdown an athlete's mind. You still have a blurb. You still have a 4-column format. It is a news story per se, right? It is just that now it is available at multiple platforms. And that is what leads us to, values which are embedded in print will define this new age journalism. So print is not going out of the window. It's going nowhere. It is here to stay, because the values which are so unique, so salient to print, will continue to define how new age journalism pans out. Let me tell you, after a point, everybody is sick of too much information which is available. This overload is sick of too much misinformation, which is misleading, right? So in that, the values which were embedded in print will define the new age journalism. Like I told you, new revenue models of subscription, new revenue models of crowdsourcing around the corner. Then this is an era of convergent journalism, that you are a digital reporter, you are a convergent reporter, right? So you're writing for the same person is writing for a newspaper, Pradeep Magazine is writing for Hindustan Times, and the same person runs a blog like Vijay Lokapalli. Vijay Lokapalli did an interesting episode on history of Indian sports journalists, right? So he did the video web blogs, and simultaneously he was writing for the Mail Today as well. So you're a convergent journalist today. You have the new media skills. You have the qualities of a journalist as an understanding of the news values, the idea of universalization of truth, the idea of how to write, basic writing skills, the idea of segregation of various kinds of news sources, gathering of information, putting a story in a particular format. All of that will marry with the digital skills which you have to acquire, and you become a convergent journalist today. So nowhere is print being left behind. It is just being taken together into a more integrated approach now. What is also going to be defining the new age journalism today is the research and analysis. So you're no longer just someone who'll say the 5 Ws and 1 H. We have to transcend beyond that. As a journalist, to survive today, you have to really look at, research and analysis. Let me share a story with you. I have a student from print journalism, Ramita Saluja, and she's been writing for The Guardian for quite some time now. And there was a story she did about 2 months back on how women officers in the Indian Army have not been given their due because of opacity in the screening procedure for permanent commission. If you remember, last time on the Independence Day, the Prime Minister announced that permanent commission will be granted to the Indian women officers in the Army. Right after the announcement, there was a panel which was set up, and that particular panel used very arbitrary ways of screening out women who would be granting the permanent commission. Any which ways, this particular story was done by Romita in The Guardian, and along with other stories on the same issue by other journalists. And let me tell you a good news, how a good story can make an impact, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of whether there's a pandemic or not. And we've just gotten to know a good news that most of those officers have been given the permanent commission. So Chandrachud, there's a landmark judgment by the Honorable Judge Chandrachud, and he's just come out with how can you not take cognizance of various lapses which have happened in the selection procedure, and those have to be made accountable for. So this is how a story can make a difference, and that story could make a difference because there was empirical evidence. She spoke to a lot of officers, she spoke to a lot of serving officers, to the ex-servicemen, in order to understand the nuances, the finer aspects of this issue. And she was very fair in her understanding because she was constantly talking to both sides, to the women officers, and she was also talking to the officials in the army, so that she could understand the issue, and then she could write it and explain it to all of us, that is the media officers or media audiences, in the right way. So research and analysis is the way forward, everyone. Journalism that matters. Very, very important. What is a story? Today, what is news? What kind of story should I do? Is that a story? As in everybody's getting vaccinated? Or is lack of vaccines a story? Is the Russian vaccine now being accepted in India? That a story, right? The shortage of, or when I'm getting vaccinated, the problems I face as an individual, is that a story? The side effects of a vaccine, is that a story? The trust and mistrust relationship of Indians, of Indian audiences at large, with something called as the vaccine, is that a story? Right? So what is the story is something which we need to crucially keep on underlining, keep on critically debating and discussing amongst ourselves, so that we come to this idea of journalism that matters. And that leads us to the major principle that news is not noise. For we've had noise of the television panel discussions, television journalists. We've had Arnab Goswami shouting at us for quite some time now. So this news is going to be relevant. News is here to stay. Noise will be filtered out, and nuisance, that is something which is non-news, something which is fake, something which is malicious, something which is agenda driven, is perhaps going to find a premature end. And then, because print is driven by the power of narrative, it is the storyteller in me which writes a special article. It is the storyteller in me which writes an opinion piece, a middle, or a column. So, a middle and a column cannot go anywhere because the power of the narrative continues to live on. In fact, if you look at the most sought after course on MOOCs, that is Coursera, is the transmedia storytelling, right? The digital storytelling. So, somewhere along the line, the idea, the value which has been embedded in print, the endurance of the printed word. Remember, we started out with the endurance of the printed word. This endurance of the printed word is likely to live on. I'll quickly run you through now the career choices you have. Even in the post-corona media landscape, there are diverse careers. There are a lot of careers which are available for you. There are a lot of spaces which have opened up, guys. There's a freedom of choice which you have today, which may have been little restricted a couple of years back. You have varied skills and competencies which you can acquire in the print media as well. And you have different workspaces. You have a workspace which is integrated, as in a Times of India, which has a website as well. Just a couple of my students, they've just joined the Economic Times, and some of the time they'll be working for economictimes.com, and then they will be working for the Economic Times versus the newspaper. So that's exactly what we're talking about. So there are different workplaces which have now cropped up in the post-corona landscape, and these are the careers which we are largely, these are the sets of careers which we're dealing with in print. You have careers in reportage, in reporting, surveillance, that is gathering information from various sources, collecting it, talking to people, cultivating your sources, and then quoting various official, non-official bodies, experts, polymorphic, monomorphic opinion leaders, and then telling the story. Right? Writing. Very, very important aspect is writing in print, writing features, writing film reviews, writing analytical articles, writing international articles, writing personal experience narratives. So another important aspect is editing. The role of an editor is very, very important. So what finally will go out to the audiences is decided by the editor. So can you be an editor? Can you, or are you someone who rather rephrases everything, chucks out the piece and just writes it all over again? Editing is not rewriting, mind you. Editing is a huge task. It's a huge job. Are you up for it? You have to decide on your own. Photography will
Ma'am,
always give.
excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I wanted
Yeah.
to request you to please bring that post-corona media landscape slide again. I just wanted to see it once.
Please.
Thank
Yeah.
you
So
very
these
much,
are the
ma'am.
various professions you have. So you can shoot a digital story. You have the mass media, that is television. It will continue to live. You have the newspaper. You can see the newspaper on your screen. Then you have the convergent media, a lot of research. Can you see the research happening here, guys? Can you see it here? Here, a
Yes,
lot of research is happening. Yeah, so look at this. Look at the diversity you have. You have a freedom to choose today. If you're good at research, let's say, you're very good at analyzing public opinion. And then, so that is something which you can get a job as a research analyst in a media organization. So you don't have to be necessarily a reporter or an anchor or, a columnist. You don't have to be that, or a critic. You can be a research analyst also. Full-fledged research and development wings are available. So like I said, various skills and competencies now have an opportunity in this post-corona media landscape which we're talking about, right? And then let's move on to, yeah, the next one we were talking about, photography and graphic design. Graphics and design has really come up. Whether you are in the digital environment or whether you are in the print environment, this creative communication to present text in an aesthetical manner, in a visually appealing manner, is something which has grown over the period of time. This idea of making things attractive. So, graphics and design is also an area which is a burgeoning area in the Indian media industry, especially in the print. It's an area in print, we all know that. One of my friends, we were discussing yesterday, he's been a graphic designer, he heads the graphic design in India Today, the magazine, and we were just mulling over, he's just coming up with a book. So we were just discussing the cover design of his book and lots of thoughts and ideas. So it's a very, very interesting way of communicating how you put various illustrations, infographics, various bars and charts, various cartoons and caricature, various forms of layout, whether it's the poster layout you're going to go in for, whether it is the grid layout, that is the Mandarin grid which you've chosen for your publication. So what exactly are you trying to do in order to make it visually aesthetic, visually appealing is something which we need to look at. And I remember Nazish telling me, don't don't stop without talking to them about advertising as an opportunity. Advertising is my first love, my parent area of interest. So advertising, especially in print, both in newspaper and magazine, will remain the hotbed of opportunities. We see how the advertising revenue projections continue to grow. Print too is growing at 8.6, guys. It's not like the print is not there. Everything is in green, right? So it is growing. Even by 2025, you have an 11 point, that is close to 12-point growth in advertising as an industry in India. So keeping that in mind, there are huge opportunities in the advertising agency setups as well. You have opportunities to become a writer. You can create wonderful slug lines like thinking is innovating, Apple. You can create amazing slug lines like हर घर कुछ कहता है, एक बार खाओगे तो खाते रह जाओगे. No one can eat just one, right? So you can write jingles, you can write stories, right? The story of number one yari hai, the story of three friends. You can write body copies, and you can then join as an artist in the art and the production department. That is, you can make illustrations. We have certain advertisements. Let's say we look at the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund advertisements. Amazing campaigns, the Incredible India campaign, amazing campaigns, but they're visual campaigns. Chanel bags campaigns, they're again visual campaigns. They do not have copy per se. All right. So these are the campaigns wherein you can join them as a visualizer, you can join them as an artist, you can join them as a producer, right? And of course, you can creatively excel. At the end of the day, we are kahanikars. We are storytellers in the advertising agencies, and so we can tell that story through words, that is copy, or we can tell those stories through visuals, that is art forms, various different forms of art. Or you can join the advertising department as a media planner. We're living in terms of media where there is a 8-inch screen, there's a 5-inch screen, there's a 14-inch screen, there's a 21-inch screen, and then there's a 100-inch screen. All right. So we're living in the times where there are so many opportunities, media platforms, channels, programs, types within. See how when during a match, how the screen is pushed back and you have an L-shaped ad which is running next to it. So what are the media plans which you can create? What are the innovations you can create in outdoor media? Dettol created a wonderful innovation in Delhi Metro with its handles, if you remember. So what kind of innovations can you come up in transit? Muffler Man campaign by Aam Aadmi Party, if you remember, the way they had used radio alerts, the RJ alerts was such an incredible move. Or you can join the client servicing industry as well, students. As in, you can join if you enjoy using a lot of grids, lot of approaches. I'll use the FCV grid today, or ma'am has taught me the ELM model. I'll use the ELM model to justify this campaign to the client. I'll take it to the client and tell them, how these ads are such wonderful advertisements for your campaign, and that you need to approve them. So you use a model. You can use an innovation adoption model. You can use another information processing models. So if you're very competent with your understanding of conceptual frameworks, and you can present them to the client in a convincing manner and understand what the client really wants from a campaign, then client servicing is the department for you. Right? So client servicing is not simply about your oral skills. The client servicing is an integration of your oral skills, your persuasive skills, and your analytical skills, your conceptual understanding which you have in the classroom. A lot of students tell me, is it going to be useful to study in the classroom? How is it going to reduce the gap with the industry? So if you join the client servicing department, there's an ad which you are convinced that you should be making, but the marketing department of the client is little unhappy or hesitant. That is where your ELM model, your elaborate likelihood model, the application of that particular model will help you in getting your ads approved. Fine. So client servicing department is a very, very welcome space. In fact, if I can admit, even though I come from the creative department, I can admit that perhaps it's the most lucrative one. It is the highest paid department in the advertising industry, right? So you have the account planning department also. Now, we are living in the times where every day there's a new product in development. Samsung has come up with S21 Ultra. They've also come up with S Fold 2, right? So there is a new product introduction. Maruti is coming up with, Nexa is coming up with new cars in its SUV segment. So everybody is coming up with one intervention or the other. Somebody's coming up with destination branding. Credis, you must have seen the recent Cred ad, by the way. Have you come across the recent Cred ad? It's all gone viral.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so look at the way analogy has been built around, what one is not, right? The idea is that Rahul Dravid can never be angry. People had not seen Rahul Dravid angry. And suddenly, if you juxtapose it to how cards, should they be used for reward points or not? So you've created this amazing opposition and analogous relationship through a visual metaphor of using a cricketer to tell a particular story. And that narrative has now gone viral, right? So you can join an account planning department in which you pick up the brand ambassadors, in which you build relationships with the clients, whether Pepsi is looking for a change or not, whether Pepsi is looking for a change or not, whether others are looking, Coca-Cola might look for another vertical. So all of those, and then research, of course, research is growing, whether it is consumer psychology research or market research. That brings us to the end of our discussion, right? And I leave you with this, that media is full of opportunities. All you need is the right skills, right attitude, and right training. Okay? So now if you have some questions, you can let me know.
And can you please, what do you mean by the right skills, attitude, and training?
Yeah. Attitude is that you have to do meaningful journalism. If you're working in print advertising or print journalism, in both these spaces, you have to ensure that you're ethical, that whatever story you're doing is unique. That why don't you, like for instance, farmer protests are going on, Jyoti. Where is the story about women farmers? Do we have a perspective on women farmers? Not many stories. I've just seen one or two stories. Or can there be an interesting story on how women in Punjab, they are using poetry, poems, songs, folk media to join the protest campaign? So can we have those kind of stories and then simply telling a story, farmers are sitting on protest? So this is, how are you going to tell your story? What is going to be the central idea of your story? All right. What are you going to advocate through that particular story? Are you going to educate people about the farm bills, the lacunas in the farm bills in that particular story? What are you going to do through that particular story is a very important aspect, right skills. Your ability to critically apply your mind to understand the salient aspects of that particular problem. There is a problem, and that is why people are sitting on protest. But as a journalist, to be able to find out what are those three things which are defining the problem? What are those three salient issues of the problem? And then finding communities, people, processes, problems around those three issues to make different kinds of stories on farmer protest. Right?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, may
Ma'am,
I?
good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, I have couple of questions, out of which one of the main question which me, who is going to pursue my master's in communication management, want to know from that view
Mhm.
is basically if I want to enter into advertising field, so how is it communication management going to help me with that? And the related to this, and according to you, what corporate sector career opportunities will be open to me if I get into advertising field?
All right. So there are two things to it. Number one, how will this course in communication management work out to your advantage? Lot of, see, these days we are living in a space which is called as advertising plus and integrated communication. We don't say advertising anymore. We say integrated communication landscape, right? So we're living in the times of this integrated communication in which, by understanding what is the creative communication aspect which you will ask a particular brand. See, today brands, you must have seen when Arnab Goswami went completely berserk on his Republic channel, lot of brands said we want to dissociate from this channel. So brands are becoming now extremely conscious, extremely responsible. So this course in communication management will enrich you with various case studies on how brands have to know go beyond direct selling, have to go beyond the process of show and tell, and have to actually go in for social outreach, community and participatory relationship. So it's about relationships today. And Lavanya, you're going to learn about relationships there. Okay? And this advertising is about storytelling. I told you, हम कहानी बनाते हैं. हम कहानी कैडबरीज के लिए बनाते हैं जब उन्होंने कहा कि that we want to join the local movement. Remember that ad in which the last Diwali advertisement? In the last Diwali advertisement, they were not talking about the chocolate. They were celebrating how local vendors are associated, a collaboration with local vendors. They had passed the spotlight to the local vendors. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Today, we're not telling the story about ourselves. Today, we're talking about stories of others and how we are part of other people's lives. Those communities can be artisans, those communities can be weavers, those communities can be kisan, right? Those communities can be any. So it's a very cooperative, collaborative for the corporate organizations. You can make advocacy campaigns. We've been doing it. We've been doing it for Whisper. We've been doing it for Procter and Gamble. All right. So you can do that, Lavanya.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. So it is basically, it is going to land me in communication management will definitely help me in advertising
Huge.
field, right?
You are a storyteller. So wherever you tell the story, either on client side or agency side, हम कहानीकार हैं. बस कहानी कहते हैं.
Okay,
But
ma'am,
this
thank you
time,
so much.
Lavanya will root the stories in research. अब हम कहानी वैक्यूम में नहीं कहते हैं.
Right,
ठीक है?
right, ma'am. Thank you.
May I, ma'am?
Right.
Ma'am, first of all, I would like to say that earlier I assumed that this is going to be a lecture-like session, but it seemed so interactive. Even if you were speaking, it seemed interactive. So thank you very much for being here and guiding all of us. And I wanted to ask you that is there any space for real journalism these days? Because when we
Anna.
watch Indian news channels, like I didn't find anything so interesting in it. I had to go to the newspapers to find something actually
You
real
said
and
it,
serious.
Stuti. Thank you, Stuti, for reinforcing the faith in print. But Stuti, मैंने ना एक कविता लिखी थी रवीश को. Ravish was one day doing a program on prime time and he said टीवी मैं अब टीवी नहीं देखता. उसके बाद मैंने एक कविता लिखी थी हाँ मैं टीवी देखती हूँ, right? And the reason why I'm talking about it is because मैं टीवी देखती हूँ to know how not to report. What is not news? what is complete noise. So I stay away from noise and nuisance to write stories on Y.in, to write stories on News Laundry. I have my space. Suti, there is space for all kinds of journalism. In fact, there are opportunities in news. Like I told you, Balaknama. Why can't we write for smaller newspapers? Why can't we start our own community newspapers? Right? It's not that everybody has to write for Times of India front page. Limitations are there because that's an ad-driven revenue model. But there are no limitations on subscription-driven models or on crowdsourced media. Please, let's mature ourselves and get into that aspect of life now. Okay?
Exactly. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
So I just
Can I, Nazish? I have a request. One of my students has to give a pre-submission viva today.
All right.
So they're waiting for me. So can we just have the last question now?
Yeah, we'll just do that. Yeah. Ritika, can you, just kind of sum it up?
Oh, yes, ma'am. If anyone else has any sort of questions, please, you can go ahead in the chat box. I believe Palak has written a question. May I go ahead and read that, ma'am?
You can do that. You can go ahead with the question. Yeah.
Palak, are you here? Would you like to speak that up for yourself? Sure, please, Palak. Go ahead.
First of all, a very good afternoon, ma'am. I am Palak, second year student of journalism honors. I just had two small questions. Number one, I am interested in advertising particularly. So, what particular skills do we need to possess to just enter into this field of ad copywriting?
Ma'am, she has also written it in the chat box, so you can just have a look at it.
I'll just read that. May I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Ritika.
Palak says, a very good afternoon, ma'am. I just have two small questions. Question number one says, what particular skills do we need to possess to enter into the field of ad copywriting? And another question says, how to get some experience or internship for that matter in this particular field? I mean, all in all, she wants to know how she can get into this field of ad copywriting.
Palak, there is to be a copywriter, the expectation is that you are able to tell stories in a brief manner. We have to keep it simple. It's almost like a tiny tale you write. Fine. So in that case, there are two things you can do to polish your skills. Like for instance, PRSI, Public Relations Society of India, have come up with a poster competition wherein they only need 2 words, slogans, right? So you can apply in those competitions. DAVP, Directorate of Audiovisual Publicity, often announces competitions. There's Ambedkar Jayanti, which is happening. So I'm sure they've already had a copywriting competition, a concept writing competition. So you should participate more in such competitions. You should read a lot of ads, not see. Read a lot of ads. Who are the major copywriters? People who are writing advertisements. Who wrote this cred ad? Was it Vishal or Tanmay? Who wrote the story? Fine. So another thing you need to do to be a copywriter, write a lot of short stories. You need to read a lot of short stories. You read a lot of jokes as well. You read a lot of news. You read a lot of topicals, right? It's about read and write. इसीलिए पहले read बनाए, इसलिए write. So हम लोग copywriting से पहले we read a lot, and then brevity is the key. That we have to write. We are not writing an essay. We're writing a 2-line copy, 1-line headline, and we have to sum up the entire story in 1 line. Okay, a pizza which melt in my mouth even before I can say cheese. So that is 1 line in which you've been able to say that there's cheese in the pizza and that eating a pizza makes you smile. Okay. I guess I'll have to take your leave now, guys. There is a student who's waiting. He's presenting his PhD.
Just a couple of minutes. We're just winding up. Yeah.
May I go ahead?
Sure.
First of all, it was such an informative session, I must say. Although the times that we are living in, they're so uncertain, we are so skeptical about everything that is in existence at the moment right in front of us. And I see the way I've perceived this entire session, I see that it was so hopeful in its very manner. Although I had just a quick question, if ma'am, you're available to answer that.
Go ahead.
There was this one slide which said that journalism is likely to become more separated from the rest of the information presented on the internet. Do you think that with the advent of this entire internet age and how it is proliferating at the pace at which it is proliferating, do you think journalism will be separated in its own way, or will it become blended? I mean, although this might sound, this has to be in the form of, what do we say, ethic in the sense of the ethicality of this field of journalism. Do you think it'll be more, don't you think that it'll be more blended rather than being separated?
As of now, it is it's seamless, that you're not able to separate the two. But as we progress, even the advertisers are realizing that we're not gaining anything if the two remains seamless, if the two remains integrated. That there has to be a separation of what is journalism and what is not, as beneficial to all, not just the audiences. So even if you believe that newspaper is a product, the advertiser, which is one of the biggest stakeholders in this product, has realized that until unless news remains news and views remain views and fake remains fake and paid remains paid, they will not be able to survive. For their own survival, news will remain exclusive.
Right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I would like to hand over to Nazish ma'am to conclude this entire session.
Ma'am, we won't take much of your time now. So on behalf of am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah, on behalf of Department of Journalism, I would really like to thank Dr. Gurveendra Trehan for enlightening us with her views. Today's webinar was full of knowledge and very interesting information. It actually took me back to a time when I used to be ma'am's student doing my master's program, and I would always eagerly wait for her class to begin. And ma'am, she has also been one of my mentors, and also the reason why I actually chose advertising as a subject area for my doctoral research. So thank you very much, ma'am, for always being so kind and inspiring. And thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and gracing us with your presence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
God bless you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do very well. Do very well. God bless you all.